So after doing salient features and the basic definition of agency, let us get on to question number 2, which asks: A appoints M, a minor, as agent to sell his watch for cash at a price not less than 700. M sells it to D for 350, half the price. Is the sale valid? अभी हमने सीखा था section 184. So as per section 184, any person can be appointed as an agent. The problem is that such person will not be liable. So over here, A appoints a minor. So who is Mr. A? A is our principal. Appoints M, a minor, as agent to sell the watch at a cash price of 700. See, the rule very clearly states, let me write that over here, the agent needs to act as per the instructions of principal. If he doesn't do so, any loss or damage caused due to not following the instructions, the agent is liable. That is the general rule. But this guy is a special case for us. This guy is a minor. So in this case, if he has sold something of 700 for 350, is the sale valid? The answer is a clear cut yes. The sale in this case is valid. The sale is valid. Right, you cannot demand the watch from the third party because you appointed this minor guy, right, who may be negligent or incapable of negotiating the terms well enough. Now explain the legal position of M. M is not liable for anything. He is not liable. You have to be very careful. You can appoint anyone, but it comes with a danger, a warning sign. The legal position of M. M is not liable. So what Mr. D? D has nothing to do over here. D is the third party. Right, so D is the third party. He won't give the goods back, referring to the provisions of the Indian Contract Act. So you can appoint any person, and over here we have seen any person as a minor, जो हमने अभी case discuss किया था. So a minor has been appointed, but the minor is not personally liable. Neither the deal gets cancelled. So who suffers the loss? The principal suffers the loss. As simple as that, for making a wrong choice. Very, very simple. Right. Briefly explain different modes of creation of agency. This is massive. I would term it as a very, very important question, because this done, almost everything in agency is done, right? A lot is done in agency. If you are able to do this question number 3, let us get on with question number 3. The discussion is with respect to question number 3. Now, modes of creation of agency. Modes of creation of agency, there are a lot many modes of creation of agency. I'll take one at a time. The most easiest one I'll start with is section 187, right? Agency by actual authority. This authority can be either express or implied. Right, the authority can be either express or implied. So this is mode of creation of agency by actual authority. Very, very simple. Let us take a few examples in order to sort ourselves. See example number 1. Sir appoints Janvi, right, as the real estate agent. So I have told her that I have a plot of land, plot in Kurumangala, I want her to sell this plot of land for me. So this is express authority given to her. Right. So if I say to one of the guys that I want to sell 5,000 kgs of wheat, I'm talking wheat, right? Gehu. So I have appointed that person as my agent. So that is again agency by express authority. So where do we find this implied wale agents, right? Implied authority wale. See, very simple. This implied authority agency is very simple to understand. This happens in case of partnership firms, where partner to the partnership firm are implied agents of the firm. और एक एग्जांपल ले लें. The promoters or directors are natural agents of the company. Once the company is floated, it has a separate legal entity. But does the company walk, talk? No. Who enters into a contract on behalf of the company? The promoters, the directors of the company enter into a contract on behalf of company. So we call them as the natural agents of the company. So this is nothing but agency by implied authority. So express authority हो गया, implied authority हो गया. Now we come to the other mode of creation of agency. That is section 188, and this is massive. This is really massive. Section 188. Section 188. And if I have to say any section very important in agency, it is this particular section. Directly cases can pop up from this section. This is termed as agency by ostensible authority or apparent authority. Apparent authority or ostensible. So we can use either the word apparent or ostensible authority over here. Now, what does this ostensible or apparent authority mean? That's the most important, that's the crux of the thing. First of all, we can understand ostensible authority as refers to what? See, ostensible authority refers to the authority which a third party can reasonably presume the agent to have in the ordinary course of business at a place where such business is carried out. राइट अब आ जाते हैं हमारे मास्टर सेक्शन की तरफ 188 जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं ostensible authority refers to the authority which the third party can reasonably presume ये बड़ा डेंजरस सा चीज है भाई reasonably presume the agent to have in the ordinary course of business at a place where such business is carried out matters क्योंकि हर प्लेस में see the rules of agency may be for with respect to buying and selling of land may be a little different in Bangalore than in Kolkata, then in Mumbai, then in Delhi, right? So every place, then in Jaipur, so every place has different dynamics of the same business, though the nature of the business looks similar, but the rules regulations regarding the business may be different in different places. So यहाँ place का भी महत्व है, right? Now we have to take more than a few examples in order to digest what we have just read now. Let us try and understand section 188 with the help of an example. Let us say we have one Mr. Lucky. He is the manager. Lucky would be pretty happy being a manager of, but let me tell you that where he is the manager of wine shop, bar and restaurant. Who is the owner? Right? Gautam is the owner of such business. Right? And Gautam also has a manufacturing facility of alcohol, alcoholic drinks, beer and stuff, right? So over here Lucky's name is on the signboard, sorry, in the placard at as soon as you enter into the shop, there's a board, there's a placard which states Mr. Lucky, the manager of the shop. So over there Mr. Rahul reaches the shop. Rahul approaches Mr. Lucky, the manager, right? And he gives him a good deal regarding certain beer that he can sell to Mr. Lucky and offer him good margin, right? So Mr. Rahul and Lucky were discussing and working on and negotiating on a deal, whereas Mr. Gautam, the owner, had very clearly given instructed that manager Mr. Lucky cannot purchase any beer from outside, from any other vendor. ठीक है, विस्की है, वाइन है, खरीद सकता है, राइट, बिकॉज ही हिमसेल्फ इज द मैन्युफैक्चरर, ही वांट्स टू इंश्योर दैट his beer is supplied in his shop, creating the sales, right? So over here backward integration, forward integration, वो सब बातें आ जाती है, strategic management पे नहीं जाते हैं ज़्यादा, right? So this were very clear cut instructions given by the principal to the agent, the manager, right? How Mr. Rahul is supposed to know? राहुल कितना भी योगा कर ले, ज्ञानी बन जाए, but he won't be able to come to know about such secret instructions given by the owner of the organization to the manager, right? So Mr. Rahul is in a position to reasonably presume, you have to answer my question over here, can Rahul reasonably presume that Lucky would be having the authority to purchase beer, right? So how Rahul can presume this? First of all, you have to go to my statement that I've given over here regarding ostensible authority. Refers to the authority which a third party can reasonably presume. Reasonably presume का ground क्या होगा? दो तीन चीजें ध्यान में रखनी है, right? Business which are of similar nature, do they act in a given manner? बहुत clear सी बात है, yes. So every manager of a restaurant, bar, resto bar, wine shop has the authority to make purchases on behalf of the principal, the owner, right, at a particular place where the business is carried out. So let us say this is a case of Bangalore, right? So in Bangalore, if all the managers are following this, there is a trend that the managers of the shop make purchases of the alcoholic drink and sell it. So Mr. Rahul, a third person who has no clue of this internal mechanism or the internal restriction placed by the owner of the organization on the manager of the restaurant and bar, he has no clue on that one. Can he reasonably presume if there are instances, not instances, if there is a trend, right? If Mr. Rahul is able to notice a trend that wherever he goes, he deals with the manager, they purchase goods, and wonderfully the manager agrees, enters into a contract, and the principal makes the payment. This is something which is going on in Bangalore. So the authority which can be reasonably presumed by the third party that the agent must be having in the ordinary course of business, is this an extraordinary dealing? The answer is no. This is in the ordinary course of business that this dealing is taking place. He is not saying sell me the entire restaurant, right? Then it is not in the ordinary course of business of a manager to sell the restaurant, right? So can Mr. Rahul reasonably presume? The answer is yes, that our manager Mr. Lucky has the authority to purchase beer. So Lucky enters into a deal with Rahul regarding certain 2000 cans of beer, right? Though Gautam had very clearly instructed Lucky not to do so, he purchased 2000 cans. Now payment is not forthcoming. My question is, can Rahul, my question over here is, can Rahul file a suit on Gautam? Can Rahul file a suit on Gautam? The answer is a clear cut yes. Will Gautam have to pay? The answer is again a yes. Gautam will have to pay. Let's write over here. G have to pay to Rahul. Now actually, if you see, this is outside the scope of Lucky acted outside the scope of actual authority but within the scope of ostensible authority, right? Now, a lot of you would have a lot of questions storming up in the mind, but I'll answer you every bit over here, don't worry, right? तो भाई है ना, टेंशन नहीं लेने का, अभी यहां ध्यान दो. कैन गौतम later on sue Lucky for not following the instructions? Very clear. The answer is yes. The agent has to act as per the instructions of the principal, right? So Gautam can later on sue Lucky, but obviously Gautam needs to pay money to Rahul. That we have to carve it in stone, that he has to pay money to Rahul. Now your questions regarding ostensible authority, I'll answer one by one. Now I'll put the doubts across, which I know you will be having it. Let us do it by means of few example over here, guys. Now let us say there is one Mr. Varad. He's a truck driver, right? Truck driver. Sir meets him, right? And sir asks the truck driver, can you sell the truck to me? The truck actually belongs, the owner of the truck is, let us say, Mr. Ayush. Right, Ayush is the owner of the truck. Mr. Varad is the truck driver. Sir negotiates with Varad to sell the truck to him. So sir wants to purchase the truck. So over here, let us say Varad sold the truck. Right. So Varad has sold the truck and sir has paid some advance payment, and Varad went to and completed his duties, went to Ayush, kept the truck over there, and Varad left. Sir later on was waiting for the truck's delivery, which was not forthcoming. So he went to Ayush and there was a lot of altercation and heat up, and sir wanted to file a suit. Will sir succeed? The answer is no. See, what is ostensible authority? See, over here, Varad has not been given any authority to sell the truck. He's a truck driver. जो भी सामान आता है, he has to load, take it from place A to B, unload, come back. That's it. That is what Varad's job is, right? So, what is ostensible authority? That a third person can reasonably presume the agent to have in the ordinary course of business. Since when in the ordinary course of business the truck drivers sell the trucks altogether? No, they do not, at a place where such business of agency is conducted. So over here, I don't see in Bangalore that truck drivers sell the trucks altogether. So that's absolutely rubbish. So if sir was under the presumption sir has paid advance, he has to take the money back from Varad. Ayush is not bound by the contract, so-called contract, right? So over here we very clearly see how do you measure ostensible authority. Ostensible authority is based on the idea that how you can reasonably presume. The reasonable presumption is based on do reasonable presumption is based on do such dealings occur in the type of business the third person is pursuing. Second, are such dealings common in the place where such agency business is carried out. Right? So you have to analyze whether such dealings occur in that kind of business where the third party is dealing in. So in Rahul's case, he sells beer, and it's very, very much common that in the city of Bangalore, the place, right, the managers deal in purchase of beer. The resto bar managers, the bar managers, the wine shop managers, they actually do such dealings, right, at the place where such agency business is carried out. So that is the ground for reasonable presumption. लेकिन अगर आप ऊपर वाला केस देखो, यहाँ sir wanted to purchase a truck from the truck driver and not the owner, right? So over there is no ground for such reasonable presumption, right? So it is outside the scope of ostensible authority, hence there is no contract. Ostensible authority. So dear friends, one thing you have to keep in mind, the scope of actual authority may be less, the scope of ostensible authority may be greater. So if there is a dealing which is falling in the scope of actual authority, I'll just like this. If within the scope of actual authority, principal is liable to third party and he has to honor the transactions because he himself actually gave the authority. But if it is outside the scope of actual authority but within the scope of ostensible authority, so if outside the scope of actual authority but within the scope of ostensible authority, the principal is still bound to the third party. But yes, he can later on, obviously, because it was outside the scope of the actual authority, so if he wants, he can take action against the agent. So this is very, 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 very important. Rather, they say ostensible authority is the premise for judging each and every case. So section 188, agency by apparent authority or ostensible authority. Apparent or ostensible authority refers to the authority which a third party can reasonably presume the agent to have in the ordinary course of business at a place where such business of agency is carried out, right? So this famous case is the case of Vetu versus Fenwick. So after Vetu versus Fenwick, we took a case, we made a case and we figured out as to when it is outside the scope of ostensible authority. So if there is a dealing which is outside the scope of ostensible authority, then भूल जाओ, the principal is not liable to थर्ड पार्टी. जैसे हमने अभी ये ट्रक ड्राइवर वाला केस देखा था, wherein I tried to purchase the truck from truck driver Varad. So it was outside, not only the outside the scope of his actual authority, but also outside the scope of his ostensible authority. Wonderful. Now this is the most important provision, as I stated, and hope it is well learnt. Now coming to section 189, हमने दो ही कंप्लीट किए भाई. Looks like a lot. 187 and 188. 189, agency in emergency or agency in necessity. Agency in necessity. Now agency in necessity is also a pretty big section. It's one part I would be discussing later on. Otherwise you won't be able to find the connect to that one. Now agency in necessity. Now let us try and work on this one. Agency in necessity. The thing very clearly states that, एक एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं ना, बेस्ट है. और एजेंसी बाय नेसेसिटी फ्रॉम एग्जाम पर्सपेक्टिव इसको मैं 5 स्टार दूंगा फिर से, क्योंकि लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस टर्न अप फ्रॉम एजेंसी बाय नेसेसिटी एंड इट्स वेरी सिंपल 5 मार्कर्स दैट यू कैन इजीली make marks out of. See, agency by necessity. Let us say sir handed over a truck of grapes to Parvati ji. एक काम करते हैं, ग्रेप्स की जगह अपन डाल देते हैं एप्पल. एग्जाम में यही पूछते हैं हर बार, राइट? सो सर handed over certain apples to Parvati, which she had to take to Mumbai and sell. Which she had to take to Mumbai. Even if it is, चलो sell भी उसको नहीं करना है, she has to hand it over to somebody. Hand it over to, let us say, Anshul. Right? So Parvati has to hand it over to Anshul, making it very very simple. So technically Parvati क्या है हमारे यहाँ? ट्रक ड्राइवर. राइट? बहुत सिंपल. तो एजेंट ही नहीं है वो, बहुत सीधी सीधी बात. So sir has sent a consignment of apple, which our truck driver Parvati has to bring it to Mumbai and hand it over to Anshul. Anshul will sell it. What happens? So Parvati starts witnessing midway in journey Parvati witnesses that the apples are getting spoiled, getting rotten, and are in a danger of losing a major part of its value. Now she sells them in a nearby market for the best possible price and hands over the money to Sir. Sir gets really angry, wants to file a suit on Parvati. So Parvati, you are only a truck driver. Why on earth you did this? Nahi chalega. But there are certain conditions that we have to scan through first. If those conditions are fulfilled, the Parvati cannot be sued upon, and she will be termed as an agent by necessity. Let us try to put the terms first, whether Parvati has acted properly or not. Let us try and understand that. First things first, the agent, the so-called agent, right? Parvati is not an agent yet, but as she finds this happening, the agent needs to communicate to the principal. Right? The first thing that the agent needs to do is to attempt to communicate to the principal. If she is not able to do, then obviously if the communication is established, then she has to act as per the instructions of the principal. The principal says take it to Mumbai. So even if apple turns into wine, I have no problem, then she has to do it, right? But if the communication doesn't happen, is not established, then the agent needs to take reasonable steps to safeguard the interest of the principal, right? So she went to the nearby market and tried to negotiate the best possible price for the semi-rotten apples, right? Third, the agent should have acted as a person of ordinary prudence. As a person of ordinary prudence, right? The agent should have acted as a person of ordinary prudence, would have done in his own case. Right. So if we examine this, did Parvati tried to communicate? Let us say that she tried to communicate, the communication couldn't be established. Then the agent needs to take reasonable steps to safeguard the interest of the principal. So she went to the nearby market, tried to figure out the nearby market where she can get the best possible price for the goods. And the person would have acted as a person of ordinary prudence would have done in his own case of the goods of same bulk and value. So if all these conditions are satisfied, let us say condition 1, 2 and 3 are satisfied, then we can very clearly say that there is an agency by necessity and the agent cannot be held liable in this case. So you can't say why on earth you sold the goods, right? So the leading case that comes to my mind now is Sims versus Midland and Co. Right? Very important case to keep in mind, agency by necessity. So ये है आपका agency by necessity as per section 189. Now let us come to section 196, another mode of creation of agency. This is 187 is done, 88 is done, 89 is done. Now we come to 196, the fourth mode. There are total 5 modes of creation of agency. This is again wonderful section 196, agency by ratification. Now coming to agency by ratification, what do we mean by the word ratification? Affirming an act done in the past. Now, agency by ratification. This is one complex section. उसके बाद agency by estoppel and holding out, we would be doing 237 to end this list. Now, these are all complicated sections, as you would have seen in ostensible authority as well. But they'll give you a good clue of this entire chapter. Now, agency by ratification. Let us first take an example. That will be a lot of fun. Now, let us say there is one Mr. Ansh. Now, this fellow has no link to me. यहाँ मैं सर लिख देता हूँ, right? So one Mr. Ansh enters into a contract with Mr. Ayush, right? And the deal is that Ansh is going to purchase, I'll tell you the entire story, purchase 5,000 kgs of wheat I meant, right? But he said that he's acting as an agent of Sir Traders is a firm with big reputation in the market, or largest wheat traders in the market. But I have no clue of this guy, who this guy is. I have no idea. So Ansh enters into a contract with Mr. Ayush, pretending to be my agent, and purchases 5,000 kgs of wheat. Obviously, Ayush thinks that let us establish a good relation with Sir, because he's one of the largest traders in the market and he offers a very good price, say only rupees 20 per kg, right? Now, this deal happened on, so I would like to say, date of the so-called contract was, let us say, 5th of April, right? The contract happened on that day. Now later on, this thing has happened, right? And Ayush calls me. I'll tell you what happened in between. Ayush calls Sir on 10th of April and says the deal will not go through. And what is Ayush's contention over here? That he figured out that Ansh, who pretended to be my agent. He figured out that Ansh is not actually my agent from other sources in the market. So Ayush calls me and says that there is a deal. Obviously, you would be thinking it's ridiculous on Ayush's part to do so, but Ayush does that. Doesn't matter, just a part of a tale. Nothing too much to do with what I'm going to discuss over here. But let us say Ayush calls Sir on 10th of April and says the deal will not go through. And what is Sir's reply? My God. Sir's reply. When are you sending the goods? Now, this came as a shock to Ayush, right? Ayush says, no, the deal will not go through, and Sir is saying, when are you sending the goods? It's already late. Now, let us say in between these two dates, on 7th of April, Ansh informed me that he has entered into a contract like this, pretending to be my agent when he is not the agent, and he has struck a very nice deal for me. I, being a businessman, I thought the market price of this good quality of wheat is 24 rupees a kg. I'm getting it 20 rupees a kg, that to 5,000 kgs. I can very much buy it. So it's game on for it, right? So I ratified. I'll come to this word again. I ratified and affirmed the transaction, right? As against Ansh, I told that I completely accept your transaction, right? So over here, I'll put one more date. Don't worry. It has to be complicated. Now, over here, if you notice that on 5th, the so-called contract took place, right? On 7th, I came to know about it and I affirmed the contract, right? On 10th, Ayush wanted to cancel the contract. My question is, can the contract be cancelled? The answer is no. This contract cannot be cancelled. The contract cannot be cancelled. Ayush's contention is, sir, this is no contract at all. I say, no, there is a contract. My person came to you, right? So I am accepting a pretended agent to be a real agent, right? So I'm accepting the pretended agent to be my real agent over here. Let us say that in this case, the contract was accepted by me on 7th, and Ayush figured it out that there's something wrong with this on 10th, and he calls me and stating that the deal cannot go through, right? Great, no problems. Now, the thing is that the contract cannot be cancelled. Why I'm saying it's a contract? You would be wondering that Sir has accepted the contract before Ayush cancelled it. Now let me put this across in a different manner. Let us say on the 5th contract took place. Sorry, the so-called contract took place on 6th of April. Ayush finds out that Ansh is not the agent of Sir, right? So this revelation happened to Ayush on 6th, right? So Ayush calls me and says that, sir, is Ansh not the agent of yours? I say, what happened? So he told me, sir, I have entered into a deal with Ansh at 20 rupees a kg for 5,000 kgs, right? My eyes pop up and I figure out that there is a good deal. I say, no, Ansh is my agent, right? To Ayush, sir affirms that Ansh is his agent. But Ayush is in utter disbelief and states that no, I'll not go ahead with the contract. I know, sir, Ansh is not your agent. I figured it out from the market sources that Ansh is not your agent. Right. Now the question is here that Ansh turns up on 7th and tells me the story. I say, Mr. Ansh, yesterday Ayush called me and told me already what you had done. So over here, see, ratification may take place on 6th. Means subsequent affirmation of an act done in the past can take place on 6th, can take place on 7th, can take place on any day. Still, Ayush cannot cancel the contract out, still call it a contract, a valid contract. The reason is the rules of ratification are ratification is valid from the date of contract it means the contract would be treated as one done with prior permission of the principal. Right? So over here, ratification would be deemed as valid from the date of the contract and not from the date it is ratified. So ratification becomes retrospective, not from the date the principal accepts the contract, but from the date that so-called contract was actually entered into. So in this case, the contract date is 5th, right? So I may ratify it on a later date stating that no, it's all fine, I accept the contract entered into by Ansh. So if I ratify, it backdates. Technically, the clock starts from the day the contract has been entered into, right? So the moment Ayush wants to back out, it would be like a breach of contract and I can sue him for the breach of contract. As good as that. So ratification is valid from the date of the contract. It backdates. I repeat, it has a retrospective impact. It means that the contract would be treated as one done with the prior permission of the principal. So that is one important thing that we witness in ratification section 196. The contract would be treated as one entered into or done with the prior permission of the principal. बहुत important है भाई. So ratification में आपको एक बार ratify हो गया, then you don't check what is the date of ratification, what is the date when the third party is trying to pull out. Nothing. Ratification once done, it starts from the date when the contract was entered into and not the ratification date, nothing. So the date of ratification may be 6th, maybe 7th, maybe 10th, maybe later on, no problems. Once it's ratified, it backdates directly. So over here, there's a very famous case of Bolton versus Lambert. I'd like to quote it over here. Bolton versus Lambert, BOLTON versus LMBERT. So agency by ratification. What do you mean by ratification? The term ratification means subsequent affirmation of an act done in the past. So I'll just rush through the case. Ansh pretended to be an agent, or it can be an agent who is acting outside the scope of his authority. Let us say my driver goes and sells my car for 20 lakh rupees, right? Later on, he comes and tells me that, sir, I found you a good deal. I say, oh, 20 lakh, nice. And I affirm the contract 5 days later on, right, when I come to know about it. So that can be also ratification when the agent is working outside the scope of his authority. I'm talking about ostensible authority. Always keep that in mind. It's an easier way to understand. Or there is a person who is pretending to be an agent. So Mr. Ansh pretended to be my agent over here. He entered into a contract with Mr. Ayush. Ayush gave in. He thought that Ansh is actually my agent, and then later on, a later date, after 5th of April, I ratified the contract. So once the ratification is done, the clock begins not from the date of ratification, but rather from the date the contract was entered into. So the moment the third party says, no, it's, I reject the offer, it's not offer anymore, my dear friend. It has become a contract. The moment you say you want to back out, means it's breach of contract, right? So the moment ratification happens, it is, the contract would be treated as one which is done or entered into with the prior permission of the principal. That is the essence of section 196, Bolton versus Lambert case. Now, as we have completed our section 196, agency by ratification, there would be more points on ratification we would be digging into, but the basis of ratification has been done over here. Now, after ratification, we would be doing the last mode of creation of agency, that is section 237. We'll just write it over here very quickly. Section 237. Now, this covers agency by estoppel, right? Agency by estoppel. See, whenever we do the term estoppel, we generally take together the term holding out as well, right? So here we will be doing agency by estoppel, right? Estoppel refers to nothing but to stop someone, right? So let us first try and understand the term estoppel before we try to go ahead, because a lot of people mix up estoppel and holding out. Estoppel and holding out are two different things altogether. Now let me cure this once and for all as to what does estoppel mean and what does holding out mean. I'll give you a few instances where there is estoppel and holding out, and you will have much more clarity on the same then. Now we'll write regarding estoppel. You write the meaning of estoppel. Where A person buys words spoken or written. Where a person buys words spoken or written, or by his conduct, willfully leads, or by his conduct. Willfully leads another person. To what? Right? To believe that a certain state of affairs exist. That a certain state of affairs exist. He is precluded. पूरा समझाऊंगा इसको. Is precluded from what? Preclude करना यानी निकाल देना. Precluded from denying subsequently. The fact of that state of affairs. Now this is preclusion is nothing but a stopped, right? So we'll take it part by part. एक काम करते हैं, एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं, बाद में ये समझेंगे. So that will make it much easier. मानो एक एग्जाम्पल ले लेते हैं हम. Right. Let us say Mr. Ansh has a showroom, an electronic showroom, and there's one friend, Mr. Gautam, jobless guy, turns up to the shop every day, free का चाय नाश्ता के लिए बस, right? And he is nowhere related in terms of business to Mr. Ansh, right? A customer walks in. Mr. Sir walks in. That particular day, the people at the shop, that is the staff at the shop, hadn't turned up. By then, Mr. Gautam approaches Sir and says, "Sir, what do you want?" And I start asking for stuff, and he shows me a refrigerator. I want to purchase a refrigerator, and Mr. Gautam's sales pitch is impeccable, right? Now over here he talks about certain features that do not exist. Then he says that we have we provide the service, we do not wait for the company people to turn up. फेंक रहा है भर भर के, right? And he told we'll do the servicing in case of any damage to the refrigerator or any issue is there, which is actually not the norm. Ansh is hearing all this, right? So within hearing of Ansh, Mr. Gautam makes certain statements which are absolutely crap, right? They are not going to adhere by it because generally the company provides the service and not the showroom. And this guy is saying all this nonsense, and I go ahead with the deal. I'm so much impressed, right? Obviously, the statements made by Mr. Gautam, though not true, were worth hearing and worth making anyone happy, right? That is what generally a false statement does, makes you happy. Now, so over here, Mr. Sir purchases the refrigerator. There is some issue with the refrigerator. I call upon Ansh, stating that see, you have made such promises and now you have to send a person as per the deal. Mr. Ansh says, no, we do not have any such policy. You can directly call the company. I say, no, that's not done. Your agent, right? Your manager at the showroom. When Mr. Gautam told me all this, Ansh says, he's not my manager, right? And he's no one. He's not my staff. So over here, if I look at this story, where a person, who is this person? Mr. Ansh. By his words spoken, written, or by his conduct. Ansh, by keeping quiet and looking, being just merely an onlooker to what Gautam was saying, he by his conduct willfully leads another person. Who is this another person? That is Sir, to believe that a certain state of affairs exist. Certain state of affairs, इसका मतलब क्या है यहाँ? That by Ansh keeping quiet, he made me believe that Gautam is nothing but agent of Ansh, right? He is kind of manager of the showroom. Then he, अब ये ही कौन है? Again Ansh. Where a person, वहां से फिर आ गया he. So Ansh, again I repeat, he is precluded, यानी stopped, to stop someone, preclude someone, disallow someone, is precluded from denying subsequently. Now Ansh is saying, no, Gautam is no one, वो तो मेरा friend था, jobless guy. See, how do I know? Right? Just try this out. Go to anyone's showroom and start behaving like a salesperson and start giving a sales pitch to random people turning up to the shop as customers. Just try doing it, but at your own risk. Don't take my name for that. Denying subsequently, precluded from denying subsequently. Yani Ansh, he is precluded from denying subsequently the fact of that state of affairs. You are precluded, yani you are disallowed from moving back, right? Precluded from denying subsequently the fact of that state of affairs, yani you cannot now deny that Ansh cannot deny that Gautam worked like an agent, because what was the state of affairs? Is agent of Ansh. Gautam did try to pretend as the agent of Ansh. Ansh was there, he knew it in his hearing, in his vision, in his sight, that entire drama was being scripted by Mr. Gautam, and he didn't interfere. So he made me believe that Ansh, by his conduct, by keeping quiet, made me believe that Gautam is his agent. Now he cannot backtrack on that, he cannot move back on that, right? So this is termed as estoppel, right? It can be by words spoken, by written, और बाय द कंडक्ट. तो ये सबसे 3 कॉमन बातें हैं, उसमें कंडक्ट वाले एग्जाम्पल सबसे ज्यादा आएंगे एग्जाम्स में, राइट? सो दैट इज अनदर that is one basic example of estoppel. I would like to take one more example of estoppel, this time by words spoken. Right. So this is a pretty famous case of Trickett versus Tomlinson that I would be discussing over here. Now let us say uh, there is Miss Anshul. Right. Miss Anshul has one agent termed as Miss Ishika. Right. And there's another third party in the scene, Miss Wrinkle. Right. Now let us start this case. Miss Anshul is from Bangalore. Now let us start this case. Miss Anshul is from Bangalore. Miss Wrinkle is from Calcutta. Right. Right. So over here the dealing starts like that. Miss Anshul actually is from Bangalore, but she has a property in Calcutta. Let me write this down. Now she wants to sell this property and the negotiations are going on. Right. Miss Wrinkle wants to buy the property, the intended buyer. Now Miss Anshul, Miss Ishika and Miss Wrinkle, all the three are at a meeting, and Anshul finally says to Wrinkle that do one thing, you check out the property, and this meeting happened in Bangalore, let us say. Right. Miss Anshul told to Miss Wrinkle that you once physically check out the property one last time. Ishika would be turning up to Calcutta. So Ishika goes to Calcutta, and the price that was being negotiated is say 1 crore 10 lakh. So negotiated price was 1.1 cr. Problem was Wrinkle was not willing to pay this much, so negotiations were going on. Anshul told very clearly that Ishika will turn up to Calcutta. You guys go to the site, check the property physically, and finally, whatever Ishika decides, I'll sell the property at that price. So this is Anshul's statement. So this statement was made by Anshul, right? Quote unquote, in the meeting in front of everyone. So whatever Ishika decides, I'm completely fine with it. You don't worry. So Ishika goes to Calcutta. They have a site visit, everything, and later on, Ishika and Wrinkle start negotiation, and Ishika is fine with 95 lakhs, right? Ishika is saying that 95 lakhs is a correct amount, and they finally inked the deal. The negotiated price over here was how much? 1.1 crore. Now, in between this, what transpired? Ishika, before she was leaving to Bangalore, Anshul gave a secret instruction. I'll just write over here. Anshul gave in a different colored pen, hopefully. Secret instruction. Right? What was the secret instruction? Do not sell below 1.05 crores. Right? So, देखो यहाँ Anshul in front of everyone said that I'm fine with whatever Ishika decides. So whatever price is decided by Ishika, I'm fine with it. That is what she says in front of Wrinkle. Later on, she gives secret instructions before Ishika is leaving for Calcutta, stating that do not sell below 1.05 crores. Wrinkle is not aware. Wrinkle thinks whatever Ishika decides is fine. Right. And then they negotiate. Finally, after going on to the site, Ishika thinks that 95 lakhs is the max we can get out of the property. So Ishika inks the deal at 95 lakh. Over here, my question to you guys is, can Anshul back out of the deal? The answer is absolutely no. Anshul would be stopped from backing out of the deal. Now let us put this in perspective over here. It's a different case, so just draw a line. Right. So if we go to the definition, where a person, who is this Anshul, by his words spoken, written, or conduct. So by her words spoken, right? I repeat, made, so written or conduct, willfully leads another person. Who's another person over here? So first one was Anshul. When a person willfully leads another person, Miss Wrinkle, to believe that certain state of affairs exist. What are the certain state of affairs? That whatever Ishika decides, Anshul is fine with the decision, right? But the secret instruction was unknown, right? Then such person, he is precluded. Yani who? Anshul, I repeat, is precluded or stopped from denying subsequently the fact of that state of affairs. Now Anshul goes, after figuring out that the deal happened at 95 lakh rupees, now Anshul says no, 95 lakh rupees के अंदर deal हुआ है. I am not fine with it. I'll back out of the deal because I gave secret instructions to Ishika which she didn't follow. Now Wrinkle will say, in front of me you said that whatever Ishika decides I'm fine with, and Anshul, now you cannot back out. And Wrinkle is completely right over here. The deal has to go through at 95 lakh. Then later on, obviously Anshul can file a suit on Ishika for not following the secret instructions. That is all the secondary part. Again, this is an example of a classic example of estoppel, right? So I hope estoppel concept is very clear. Now we'll go on to the concept of holding out and try to figure out what's the difference between estoppel and holding out. Holding out. Now I'll tell you certain very basic example of holding out. I long back told you that there is a massive difference between a servant and an agent. Now let us say sir has a servant, Mr. X, right? Sir has a servant, Mr. X is not the agent, right? So he's doing house chores, and sir sends Mr. X, right, to a nearby departmental store, right, a nearby store, it's a provision store, right. Sir sends Mr. X to a nearby store, provision store. Mr. X purchases certain goods on credit. Mr. X purchases goods on credit. Sir clears the bill at the end of the month. Right. This kept on happening for months together. Let us say 6 months. Whatever was purchased by Mr. X was settled by Sir, right, at the month end, and this happened for 5 to 6 months. Now, my dear friend, this gives the owner of the provision store a very clear idea that whatever would be purchased by Mr. X would be settled by Sir at the month end. Am I right? So, by इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं what did Sir do over here, right? So the relation between Mr. Sir and Mr. X was Mr. Sir was the master and Mr. X was the servant. It was not principal agent, my dear friends, right? So over here for certain 6 months this drama went on. तो इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं affirmative conduct. Affirmative conduct, right? So, due to affirmative conduct in the past 6 months, the provision store owner is completely under the impression, the idea, and it's not some vague impression. This has happened for certain 5-6 months, that affirmative conduct by Sir as to whatever would be purchased by Mr. X, Mr. Sir would settle. One fine day after 6 months, Mr. X makes purchases at the store and absconds, right? He runs away and Mr. X runs away. Later on, Sir denies to pay. Sir says to the provision store guy, right, I will not pay because I never asked him to purchase any goods, and this guy on his own willingness purchased the goods and ran away. So Sir's contention is I will not pay because I never instructed him. So the provision store person will win the case or Sir will win the case? The answer is pretty very simple, that the provision store person will win the case because by past affirmative conduct of certain 6 months, whatever was purchased time and again by Mr. X was settled by Sir at month end. So this gives a very clear idea that Mr. Sir was making himself bound by the act of Mr. X. Am I right? So वही तो एजेंसी का premise है. Whatever the agent does, the principal is bound by the acts of the agent to the third party. So if you keep on doing it over a period of time, people will figure out, okay, fine, this guy, whatever be the actual relation, we don't know, but when he is going to the provision store purchasing it and Mr. Sir settles it, it shows that there is a relation of the principal and the agent being established. So by past affirmative conduct, the rule of holding out he is held out. एक्चुअल में क्या है पता नहीं, but he is held out as the agent. Who? Mr. X in this case. Hence, sir would be liable to pay. Right? Sir would be liable to pay. तो ये बात एकदम सामने आ जा रही है, liable to pay. Right. Let us take one more example of holding out to have much more clarity. So we are done with our example 1. Let us take one more example. So I would be taking the case of Truman versus Ladder over here. See, there were X, Y, and Z partners. See, the partners of the partnership firm are agents of each other. We all know that, right? Then there is Sir, right? So one of the partners, Mr. X, moves out. Of partnership. And no notice is given, right? So I am their supplier and no notice has been given to me regarding Mr. X moving out of the partnership firm. Mr. X, after moving out of the partnership firm, places an order with Sir, takes the goods and absconds. Takes the goods and absconds. Now, is the partnership firm, now Y and Z are in the partnership firm. Is the partnership firm liable? The answer is absolutely yes. The answer is a big yes. The reason is the notice of termination of agency was not provided. Technically, the partner left the organization and there was no notice of him leaving out the firm, right? So over here it is very clear. In the past, यहाँ भी देखो past affirmative conduct फिर से उभर के आ रहा है. If you, this guy was a partner in the partnership firm and he was the one who used to place the order, right? Now it is the duty of the partnership firm when they are reconstituting the stuff. One of the partners move out and now Y and Z are the partners. The notice of termination should have been given. There has to be clarity as to this guy has moved out. If they fail to do so, obviously a third party would reasonably presume that Mr. X is still a partner, right? So if he places the order, I don't see anything fishy in that one. So I process the order, I give the goods, and Mr. X takes the goods and absconds. He runs away, right? So over here it is pretty clear that the partnership firm in this case would be liable on the grounds of होल्डिंग आउट. उसीलिए ये नोटिस वोटिस जो है ये चक्कर उसीलिए बना रहता है. डेथ में नोटिस नहीं देना पड़ता है, राइट? क्योंकि वो एक नेचुरल नोटिस की तरह काम करता है. पीपल कम टू नो अबाउट इट. बट इफ देर इज अ क्लोज डोर मीटिंग एंड मिस्टर एक्स हैज बीन लेफ्ट आउट or he decides to leave out and Y and Z are now continuing, notice has to be served in order to ensure that the people, the stakeholders involved with the firm come to know about Mr. X leaving. So now they would be careful in dealing with the partnership firm as to Mr. X is now not a partner and hence we wouldn't deal in the firm's capacity. Now he cannot deal for the firm. If we are dealing with Mr. X, we know that he is dealing in individual capacity. Sir never knew about that because no notice was given, right? तो यहाँ भी past affirmative conduct establish हो गया. He was a partner for months or years together. He placed the order for the partnership firm, and now after leaving out, no notice was given. Obviously, sir would assume that he's still working as a partner. Every time he turns up to me, I wouldn't ask him, still you are a partner, भाई बचा है नहीं बचा है तू, right? वैसे थोड़ी ना होता है. So over here, this is again the past affirmative conduct, and this is the rule of holding out, right? This is the rule of holding out. So there is a mighty bit of difference between estoppel and holding out. In estoppel, by the word spoken, written, or by conduct, right, of a person, he makes the third party believes that a certain state of affairs exists. That's why he is disallowed from backing out, right? Over here there is past affirmative conduct. यहाँ सिर्फ कंडक्ट के ऊपर है, वर्ड स्पोकन रिटन के ऊपर नहीं है होल्डिंग आउट, पहली बात. एंड बाय योर कंडक्ट यू आर नॉट मेकिंग समवन बिलीव, राइट? यहाँ अगर आप देखो द कंडक्ट ऑफ कीपिंग क्वाइट, पहला केस, राइट? मिस्टर अंश केप्ट क्वाइट, सो बाय हिज कीपिंग क्वाइट आई बिलीव्ड दैट. बट यहाँ पास्ट एफर्मेटिव कंडक्ट जो एक्चुअल में, अगर हम यहाँ देखो केस 1, मिस्टर एक्स वाज माय सर्वेंट, ये एक बार अच्छे से समझ लो, होल्डिंग आउट एंड एस्टोपल, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम स्पेंडिंग सो मच ऑफ टाइम ऑन दिस वन. सो बाय पास्ट एफर्मेटिव कंडक्ट ऑफ सर एंड कंडक्ट, यहाँ क्या है देखो, कंडक्ट कीपिंग क्वाइट यहाँ कंडक्ट हो सकता है. मिस्टर अंश केप्ट क्वाइट, दैट मेड सर बिलीव दैट जी इज द एजेंट ऑफ मिस्टर अंश. बट यहाँ क्या है, यहाँ एफर्मेटिव कंडक्ट, यानी यू हैव डन समथिंग विच हैज अलाउड द थर्ड पार्टी टू बिलीव, पास्ट एफर्मेटिव कंडक्ट. और हमेशा ये पास्ट एफर्मेटिव कंडक्ट रहेगा. लेट मी राइट इट डाउन. इट इज ऑलवेज past affirmative conduct, so keep that in mind. In estoppel it can be a present conduct of keeping quiet, affirmative conduct, कुछ भी हो सकता है, right? But holding out में it's only past affirmative conduct, right? Something by actions which has occurred in the past which allows you to hold a person out as the agent. ये ऐसे पढ़ना है इसको, right? तो कंडक्ट दोनों जगह है, but in estoppel conduct is one of the parts, and conduct can be of any type. Over here it has to be only past affirmative conduct. So I hope it is very clear. Holding out, this is the basic principle of holding out. The case that we just did of partnership firm was inspired from actual case, not exactly a partnership case, but it was Truman versus Ladder, pretty famous case on holding out, right? So with that we conclude our this question, right? So एक बार जल्दी से रिवाइज कर लेते हैं. मोड्स ऑफ क्रिएशन ऑफ एजेंसी, इसको हाईलाइट कर देते हैं. मोड्स ऑफ क्रिएशन ऑफ एजेंसी. नाउ how many modes of creation of agency are there? Starting with section 187 talks about the actual authority. It can be express or implied, right? Promoters, directors and partners are nothing but agents of their firm or the company, as the case may be. Agency by ostensible authority, as I told you, the most important one is this, right? Ostensible authority is what a third party can reasonably presume the agent to have in the ordinary course of business at a place where such a business is carried out, right? So that is section 188, right? इसके ऊपर हम लोगों ने बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल में पढ़ाई की थी. Now 189 एजेंसी बाय नेसेसिटी, ये हम लोग इसका कुछ पोर्शंस बाकी आगे करेंगे. इसमें खाली 3 बातें याद रखनी है. The agent should attempt to communicate the scenario, the circumstances to the principal. He should take all reasonable steps. He should take the most reasonable course to safeguard the interest of the principal, and the agent should have acted as a person of ordinary prudence would have done in his own case of the goods of same bulk and value, right? बाद में हमने किया 196 में क्या था, agency by ratification. Over here the date of contract matters, the date of ratification से calculate नहीं होता है. You ratify on a later date, but the calculation would begin from the date of contract, and date of ratification is not of much importance. Ratification is valid from the date of contract. It means the contract would be treated as one which has been done with the prior permission of the principal, so it looks like an actual contract. Once ratified, it will be like an actual contract. तो ये हो गया हमारा सेक्शन 196. हाँ 196. और इसके बाद आता है एजेंसी बाय एस्टोपल एंड होल्डिंग आउट. एस्टोपल क्या है? दैट व्हेन बाय वर्ड स्पोकन रिटन और बाय कंडक्ट, एनी करंट कंडक्ट चलेगा, उसको एस्टोपल बोलते हैं हम लोग. Makes the other party believe that a certain state of affairs exists, then he is precluded from denying subsequently the fact of that state of affairs. Right. Holding out only based on past affirmative conduct, something repeatedly has been done, and based on that the third party believes that a certain person is an agent. Right. So agar past me he has been shown and treated like an agent, then obviously you have no reason to disbelieve the fact.